I arrived at the Stanley Hotel just before sunset. The mountains behind it glowed with the last light of the day, casting long shadows across the gravel parking lot. The building itself looked less haunted than I expected. Elegant, even. Clean white walls, wide windows, a wraparound porch. But there was something beneath that surface. A stillness, like the place was holding its breath, waiting for night to fall. Inside, everything was perfectly polished. The chandeliers hummed softly above the lobby. Old jazz music drifted from unseen speakers. And the woman at the front desk smiled as if nothing in this place had ever gone wrong. She didn't flinch when I asked for room 217. She didn't even raise an eyebrow. She just nodded, slid a key card across the counter, and said, "Take the elevator to the second floor. It's the last door on the left." The hallway felt colder than the lobby. Maybe it was the old carpet beneath my shoes, or the way the overhead lights flickered just slightly. Not enough to call maintenance, but enough to notice. Room 217 looked like any other door, but as I stood in front of it, the air felt heavier. There was a pressure in my chest I couldn't explain. Still, I laughed it off, inserted the key, and stepped inside. The room was beautiful, old-fashioned in a charming way. Floral wallpaper, heavy curtains, a four-poster bed that looked like it had seen a century of guests. There was a faint scent of lavender and wood polish. Nothing seemed out of place. Yet, I unpacked slowly, taking it all in. Set my bag by the dresser. Opened the curtains to a view of the mountains. Sat on the edge of the bed and let the silence sink in. That's when I noticed something strange. No hum from the heater. No ticking from the old clock above the door. Not even the faint buzz of a light bulb. It wasn't just quiet. It was silent. Completely, unnaturally silent. I turned on the TV to break the stillness, but it wouldn't respond. Dead screen. No light. No static. Nothing. I shrugged, assuming the remote batteries were dead, and went to the bathroom. That's when I heard it. A whisper, not a voice, just the shape of one. It came from behind the shower curtain. No words, just the soft, breathy rhythm of something trying to speak but failing. I froze, hand halfway to the sink, and listened. Nothing. I pulled the curtain open in one swift motion. Empty. Just a clean white tub and a bottle of hotel shampoo. I laughed at myself, shook my head, and splashed some water on my face. I needed sleep. The drive had been long, and my imagination was doing what it always did in places like this. That night, I lay in bed, eyes on the ceiling, listening to the nothing. Not even the sound of my own breathing seemed real. The room didn't creak. The wind didn't howl. But somewhere, far off in the walls, I thought I heard movement, like someone dragging something heavy across a wooden floor. I told myself it was just the old building settling. It didn't feel like that. And just before I finally drifted off to sleep, I heard it again. That almost voice, this time closer, coming from the bathroom. It was trying to say something, and it almost sounded like my name. I woke up sometime after midnight. The room was pitch black, darker than I remembered. The clock on the nightstand was off, its red digits dead. I reached for my phone to check the time, but it wouldn't turn on. Just a black screen reflecting a pale shape behind me. I spun around instantly. Nothing, just the empty room, bathed in silence. There was a pressure in the air now. Not just quiet, but dense, like breathing underwater. I sat up, suddenly aware that I had no memory of actually falling asleep. My last memory was hearing that whisper in the bathroom, and then this. I stood and crossed the room. The air felt colder. Every step toward the bathroom made the feeling worse, like walking into something that didn't want me there. The mirror was fogged, even though the air was freezing. I hadn't used the shower. There was no reason for moisture, but there it was, a thick layer of condensation across the glass. I reached out to wipe it and stopped. There was something already written in it, letters traced through the fog, as if by a finger. Look under the bed. My breath caught. I stared at the words for a long time, hoping they would fade or vanish or smear when I blinked. But they stayed. The message was real, and I was alone. At least, I hoped I was. I stepped back into the main room. The bed sat still and untouched, its white sheets now looking almost too clean, too perfect. I knelt beside it, hesitated, then slowly lifted the skirt. A black shape was tucked against the back wall. A small, leather-bound book, thick, worn, and unmarked. I pulled it out with trembling hands. It was heavier than it looked. The cover was cracked, and the pages yellowed, as if it had been waiting a long time. It was my handwriting. The style, the slant of the letters, even the way I crossed my T's and looped my A's. It was mine. But I had never seen this notebook before. I flipped through the pages, all filled with entries, dated for today, tonight, entries that described me checking in, lying on the bed, going to the bathroom, reading the mirror, word for word, and then things I hadn't done yet. You will sit on the edge of the bed at 2:14 a.m. You will hear yourself breathing behind the curtain. You will try to leave. The door will not open. I felt sick. My hands shook as I flipped faster, trying to find the end. The entries became harder to read, written in a scrawl, like someone had been in a panic. Pages were smeared, letters overlapping. Some were stained. I couldn't tell if it was water or something else. Then the final entry, dated tomorrow. You will not leave. I dropped the notebook. The room suddenly creaked, loud, like something heavy shifting its weight. I turned toward the closet, and for the first time, I noticed it was cracked open, a sliver of black. I hadn't opened it. I was sure of that. I took a cautious step forward, heart pounding. The notebook forgotten on the floor. The air around the closet was freezing. My breath fogged in front of me, and then something moved. Not inside, but on the other side of the room. A shadow by the window. It passed silently across the wall, quick and wrong. I spun, but nothing was there. Just curtains swaying slightly, though the windows were shut tight. I backed away, hand brushing against the nightstand. My phone lit up suddenly, not the screen, just the camera flash. It fired once, then again, then again. I looked at the screen. The phone was still off. It shouldn't be working. The camera app opened itself. The screen showed the room and me. And behind me, a second figure. But when I turned, there was nothing. I don't know how long I stood there. Time had lost its grip. The room pulsed with a kind of low, humming tension, like it was alive. Not just the building, but the space itself. The floor felt soft beneath my feet, almost like it was breathing. The closet was still cracked open. Blackness inside it, stretching too far back, like it didn't end where it should. I couldn't look at it anymore. I picked up the notebook, hesitating as I brushed my fingers over the final entry again. You will not leave. That phrase burned itself into my mind. Every instinct screamed to run, to get out of that room and never look back. I crossed the room, grabbed the doorknob, and pulled. It didn't move. Not stuck, not jammed, locked from the inside. I tried again, harder this time, twisting the handle, pushing with my shoulder, yelling for help. Nothing. The hallway beyond the peephole was dark, silent. I slammed the door, cursed under my breath, and when I turned back, the bed was different. The sheets were pulled back, wrinkled, as if someone had just gotten up, but I hadn't touched it since waking. Worse still, the notebook lay open on the pillow, open to a new page, one that hadn't been there before. You screamed. You slammed the door. You turned around and saw this page. The pen beside it rolled slightly, as if it had just been used. I stared at it, unwilling to blink. My ears rang. The light above flickered, somewhere behind me. The closet door creaked open further. That same whisper, low, breathy, now sounded like it was mimicking me. My own voice, broken, echoing I took a step forward, and the floor bent beneath my foot, like something under the carpet shifted. I stumbled back. Then the mirror in the bathroom shattered, not violently, but like something on the other side had pressed too hard and cracked it with intention. I ran to the window, locked. I tried to break it, but the glass didn't even scratch. That's when I heard footsteps, not outside the room, but inside, coming from behind the closed bathroom door, which had been opened seconds before. I didn't remember closing it. The steps stopped. Silence. Then, knocking. 1, 2, 3. From the inside. I backed away slowly. My breathing felt distant, like I was hearing it from across the room. I was shaking, not from cold, but from something deeper, something crawling just beneath my skin. I reached for my phone again. Somehow, it turned on this time. The screen flickered to life with the camera still active. I pointed it toward the bathroom door. On the screen, it opened, but in front of me, in reality, the door was still shut. I watched as the figure stepped out. Same height, same clothes, same face, mine. It looked directly into the camera, into me. I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, screen cracking, flash going off once more. I backed into the corner of the room, every inch of my body screaming to run, but there was nowhere left to go. The figure never spoke, never moved beyond the doorframe, just watched. Then it turned and walked back inside the bathroom. The door shut softly. I stayed frozen for what felt like hours. I flipped back through the pages. The earlier entries, the ones describing the night, were fading. The ink literally fading off the page, leaving them blank. The last few lines stood strong. A final message, now written in all caps. You are writing this. The pen rolled again. My hand moved on its own. I watched as the pen pressed to the page, and the words formed without conscious thought. I was writing a new entry, but I wasn't in control. Then I saw something through the crack beneath the door. Shoes, a suitcase rolling behind them. A shadow moving past the peephole. Someone checking in, and suddenly I understood. I rushed to the window and looked down at the parking lot. There, a figure stepping out of a car. Familiar, too familiar. Same walk, same hoodie, same bag. It was me, checking in, again, and behind me, in the reflection of the window, another version of me, still in the room, watching, writing, waiting. I don't know how long I've been here. I don't know which version of me is telling this. But if you're hearing this, it means the room is open again. And you might be next.